Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Rustam. In a previous video, I talked about some research topics for BS students. So, BS students who are studying in the specialization of linguistics, so they can have many topics to do research. And in the previous video, I talked about teaching methods. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a teaching method, how we can compare two teaching methods. Okay, you can, let's say, you can select a certain number of poems. Okay, let's say you select John Keats poem, let's say, you can say on Grecian urn. Okay, or you can ode to West Wind by Shelley, or whatever number of literary pieces, particularly in metrical composition, you can select. Now you have got two methods to teach these poems. One is literary criticism methods. Okay, literary criticism, which is traditional method, and in which heavy reliance is on message or meaning, content, theme, ideas, thought. They are synonymous terms because every literary text has two things in it. One is the message or meaning of the writer or the poet. Okay, second is its form or its code, language or diction, or its template or its design, layout, etc. So now literary criticism focuses heavily on the content or the theme of the literary piece. Let's say if it is Paradise Lost, it's a fairy queen, Beowulf. So if a literary critic is doing the analysis, is doing the appraisal, so if you read the essay by a literary critic, so you will come to know that he or she will mention linguistics or language element or the code very in less amount or in less detail, but theme will be discussed in greater detail. But in comparison, there is another approach, emerging approach, known as stylistic approach. Actually, there is an intermediary approach, linguistics, which is also an extremist approach, which focuses heavily on linguistic items or code. So stylistic approach actually is a reconciliating approach. Reconciliation in a sense that it says that both content and the both message and the form, they are important. Message of the text, okay, actual message are, and the code, they are important. In a foreign language, message is embedded in the code. That is, student who takes up a poem for reading, so his or her first encounter is with foreign tongue or foreign code. Message is buried deep underneath this code. So stylistic approach says that first this unknown vocabulary, unknown code, foreign language code should be explained. It should be brought into the foreground. Foregrounding is a technique that one item is brought into the foreground, in front, and in the background should be kept content. So stylistic approach gives equal importance to both content and message. But what is the technique is this, that in the background is kept code or form, and in the foreground, and in the background is kept message. So a stylistic critic or a stylistician, the person who is an exponent of stylistic approach, if he or she happens to be a teacher and you chance upon his class one day for observation, you will see that this gentleman or gentle lady will be explaining the code first, okay, and form of the poem first, linguistic items, parallelisms and deviations. I'll explain all this, and once all this has been explained, the challenging area for a foreign language learner student, then the poem or the literary piece will be handed over to the students, and they will be asked to sit in groups and then do the interpretation of the meaning. Because This is the difficult area for our learners. Okay, so there was a call. So what is foregrounding, that is code and form. So what type of research can be done? So research can be done, it can be a experimental research design in which two groups can be taken, okay, a control group and experimental group. Okay, so one group, that is control group, you have to assign them randomly. So one group can be taught the selected poems here using literary criticism approach, okay, in which the traditional way, that in a lecture method or deductive approach, theme is explained to students, and few literary devices are also explained. But another group, that is experimental group, this group should be given a treatment, that is 1 month or 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and this should be taught using through experimental approach, that is stylistic approach. Or you can even take one group, okay, little bit quasi experiment, and this can be conducted. But what you have to do in experimental group are foregrounding. So one group will be taught using stylistic approach, that is experimental group, and another group will be taught using literary criticism, that is control group. So before conducting the research, you have to design a pretest and both the groups, okay, A and B. At this time you will not tell them which group is experimental and which group is control. You just have to divide students, let's say 5 students here, 5 students here, and you have to give them a literary text, let's say a poem or a lyric by some romantic poet, or it can be a narrative piece of poetry, and you have to tell them to critically evaluate this poem. And then you have to grade these assignments and calculate average of this group and average of this group. Usually it is expected that there is a usually normal distribution of results, like both the groups will have same result, like uh, you can say average of the class may be, let's say, 20% and here, and 19% here, or 20% here. So you can declare that both the groups are same in terms of achievement at the time of experiment. Now you can randomly assign group A to, let's say, control group, and group B to experimental group. After this you can teach both the groups, or you can teach only experimental group. Okay, so you can give group A to your friend and tell him or her that they should teach this group using literary criticism. Okay, the normal teaching we do in our classrooms, and take up the control experimental group and teach it for 1 week using stylistic approach. I am going to explain what is stylistic approach. Okay, so this phase is known as treatment phase. You are giving treatment to one group, and another group is control group. Then give post test after the experiment. Give post test to both groups A and B, and then you can compare their achievements in terms of score. And if, let's say, your students, experimental students, perform better, it means at the start of the research usually we also formulate an hypothesis. Later on I'm going to explain what is an hypothesis. Let's say your hypothesis can be the students who are taught poetry or selected poems using stylistic approach, they will perform better in terms of English achievement than those who are taught through literary criticism approach. So this is your hypothesis. At the end of the experiment, if you find that the performance of this group is better, then you can declare that your hypothesis is true. If not, then you can reject your hypothesis. Research has been conducted in either case. So now let me explain, let's say, how you can analyze the data. So data analysis can be in percentage analysis at BS level. Okay, you can find out average of the each class, as you can find out percent scores. But when you move into at a higher rung, that is MPhil, you can use Z statistics and T statistics. Otherwise, here at BS level you can just find out percentage analysis. Let me explain few other let wait a while please. So I think I could not take a picture. uh, so during treatment you can design a lesson plan, okay, for 2 weeks, etc. And you can explain parallelisms and deviations in the literary text. Usually this is not done heavily in literary criticism approach, okay. So what are deviations? There are many types of deviations in a text, literary text, like lexical deviation, syntactical deviation, graphatological deviation, semantic deviations. Like literary artists, be they poet or fiction writer or novelist, whatever they are, they use words in a they sometimes invent new words, like neologism. We say neologism, invention of new words, like two-pronged engine. Alexander Pope used in Rape of the Lock for scissor, pair of scissors. So two pronged engine. Now this word did not exist in 18th century, so Alexander Pope used it for pair of scissors. Or Latinism, if poets, literary artists use words from Latin like sol, soul, it is for sun. Then we can have metaphors, special use of words. They or then we can use unusual nominal groups like post modification. When you say sense sublime, okay, like officers concerned, usually we modify words, pre-modify words, we place the adjective before the nouns, but poets use post modification. So this is known as deviation from the normal routine. So next can be syntactical deviation. There are many instances of syntactical deviation, particularly in poetry, like of mice, of men I sing. So usual word order, that is SVO, subject verb object, it is inverted in poetical compositions. So there are many examples of syntactical deviation. Graphology, graphemes, that is shapes of letters. Like poets, particularly American poet Emily Dickinson, if you have read her work, she uses unusual capitalization, okay. So same goes to irregular right justification. Text is not justified. Then semantic deviation, like you say, let's say you say the whole universe was weeping, or a flower was weeping on her death. So a flower can't weep. So this type of semantic deviation is there. Then poets also use parallelisms. So these parallelisms are known as regularities in a literary piece, like sounds. We have alliteration. We have assonance. Alliteration is actually repetition of consonant sounds at the start of each syllable or each morpheme, and assonance is repetition of vowel sounds in written words. And then rhyme, that is we have rhyming words, they also give musicality to speech. Then rhythm, and then meter. So if a teacher while teaching through stylistic approach, you have to explain all this. So once all this has been explained, these are known as deviations and parallelism. Then when you explain all this, it is known as foregrounding. So this is the new emerging approach, that you explain all this. Then you can also explain dixes in the text, like nafra, kitafra, references. And after explaining all this special diction or poetic diction, then you can talk about theme, or rather Now you can even introduce group work in the class, and you can make your students sit in groups and give them tasks to interpret the text now. So this is known as stylistic approach. So now students who study poetry through this approach, and students who study poetry through this literary criticism approach, their results can be measured and a report can be written. Okay. And this is known as an experimental research design. And results can be reported in the form of student achievement, okay, in terms of score. So again, there can be another tool, data collection tool. Like you can after students have studied this way, later on you can design a questionnaire, and you can simply put let's say 10 to 15 items in your questionnaire, and circulate this questionnaire to students, and measure or record their opinion about methods of teaching, and then analyze their attitude towards learning from different approaches. Or if you are using if you are not using a control group, or you are using only one group, that is a class of let's say 10 to 8 students, few poems are taught to them using literary criticism approach, and then few poems are taught to them using stylistic approach, and then you can measure their attitudes using a questionnaire. You don't need to conduct an experiment. It's very important area and very interesting area. And if some students want further guidance, so they can comment in the below this YouTube video, and they can email me. My email address is written on the top of my channel, and I can explain all this to them, inshallah, and I'm going to facilitate them. So in today's video I talked about one topic which can be investigated by BS level research students, those who are studying linguistics. And this can be done. There can be many tools. There can be a population can be varied. This experiment can be conducted on high school students. This can be conducted on BS level students. Okay. And even if this research has already been conducted somewhere, it doesn't alter the fact that this area cannot be investigated, because variables when setting changes, if you are conducting it in your own area with your own population, so this can be reduplicated, research can be reduplicated. So hope you have got an idea. When you are going to write a report later on, definitely you have to introduce the topic first, then you have to insert one chapter related to literature review. You have to bring in all those studies which have already been conducted, okay, and you have to critically evaluate those studies. You have to bring out their strengths and weaknesses, or you may have to find out some gap in the research. Previous researchers may not have touched upon certain area of the research, so you have to find out certain gap in the previous studies, and you can mention that your study is going to bridge that gap. And this is going to be a kind of significance of your research problem. Then in chapter 3 you have to mention you have to give the profile of the population. Okay. What type of sample you selected, how much sample you selected, how many students did you take up for experiment. So what type of sampling technique did you use, whether it was probabilistic sampling technique or non-probabilistic sampling technique. Usually probabilistic sampling technique is very good for experimental research designs, in which every participant has got the equal chance of being selected. But non-probabilistic sampling techniques can be used in research area. Then you have to mention you have to talk in depth about your data collection tool, pre-test, how did you design pre-test, post-test, intervention package, etc. Then you have to mention in chapter 3 detail of the procedure of the experiment. In fourth chapter you have to analyze the data. In you have to tabulate the data in the form of tables and graphs and pie charts, etc. Then you analyze and calculate the results. So chapter 4 is usually your results and discussion chapter, and chapter 5 you have to report your findings. What did you find, and whether your hypotheses were proved right and wrong, whether you rejected them or accepted them, and have you included any expert opinion, or what are your recommendations, what are your further area for research, what you recommend, what you didn't explore. You need to mention in chapter 5th that this and that has been not investigated, or your delimitation should be mentioned, and so that other researchers can do the research. And you have to give a list of resources you studied or you made use of during your research, that is bibliography or references. Okay, it's a very interesting area, comparing two teaching methods. Okay, thank you very much. In the next video, inshallah, I am going to explain another research topic.